Hi, I'm Andy Ramirez for the Liberty News Network. Today, we're talking about the case of United States versus Border Patrol agent Jesus Chito Diaz Jr. This is the Border Patrol agent that we've been reporting on over the past few months, who was prosecuted for doing his job by the office that used to be led by none other than the infamous Johnny Sutton. You may recall Johnny Sutton was the prosecutor who went after Border Patrol agents Ramos and Compian, Gary Brugman, as well as Noe Alaman. He also went after Deputy Sheriff from Edwards County, Texas, Gilmer Hernandez, FBI Special Agent in Charge Hardrick Crawford, and others on seemingly trumped up, questionable charges. Most of these were done at the request of the Mexican government. The case with Agent Diaz, he is the agent who was prosecuted for doing his job. And what did he do? Well, he was accused of lifting the handcuffs of an illegal alien drug smuggler. But as the facts showed in the transcripts and in other documentation, this agent did his job, and when this individual wasn't quite secured and could have made a run for it back across the border into Mexico, he did as he trained. So they prosecuted him for doing his job. You have a number of individuals who were able to get their stories together and reported it hours after this fact. You have a Mexican consul who, in their documentation to the U.S. government through the Border Patrol, states that they weren't notified by the Border Patrol. Well, because this illegal alien drug smuggler, who was a juvenile at the time, wasn't immediately returned to the Mexican consulate, how did they find their information? This investigation was incredibly, well, bogus. Because what took place here is Chito was cleared first by the Office of Inspector General. They declined to proceed any further. It then went to the ICE Office of Professional Responsibility. And this is basically ICE internal affairs types. Now, in their documentation, it's very clear that this doper was not a credible witness. Let's take a look at the document. The Office of Professional Responsibility put together a summary. And this summary, of course, I'm going to get into specific here. On April 16, 2009, it was determined as to where this case would go. And what we have here is the prosecutor, Michael Frank, the U.S. Attorney's Office, San Antonio, and U.S. Attorney's Office, Del Rio Management. Having conferred with Agent White, I won't identify further, they stated that based on the information that this drug smuggler was apprehended in what appeared to be the illegal activity of smuggling marijuana into the U.S., and that he lied to Border Patrol agents on the scene about any knowledge of marijuana, that name redacted, MBE are the initials though, credibility was questionable at best. Further, based on the fact that name redacted, MBE, was not available to testify about the alleged use of excessive force applied to him by BPA Diaz, and there did not appear to be any chance of locating him in the near future, the U.S. Attorney's Office Del Rio declined to prosecute Border Patrol Agent Diaz. Now this is April 16, 2009. Now this went to the resident agent in charge, this went to OPR, this went to Internal Affairs. This basically was sent around to quite a few places. Now IA, or Internal Affairs, stated they would accept the case for administrative action. And at the bottom of the document it states, this case meets the criteria to be transferred to CBP IA for administrative action. So why did this take place? Well, from there it goes to Infernal Affairs, as I call them, CBP, Internal Affairs. It goes to them for administrative action. Now, what's administrative mean? Let's clear this up for you. Administrative means slap on the wrist. Hey, buddy, don't do that again. Or suspension, as it's called in the Border Patrol, time on the beach. Or termination, meaning firing. How did this suddenly rise beforehand to a prosecution? That's a question that obviously there's only but one answer. Somebody wanted a message sent to the agents of the U.S. Border Patrol And who else could that be but the same instigator in all but one other case, that case being the U.S. versus Robert Rhodes, which was instigated on the Canadian border by the People's Republic of China and their foreign minister. This was several years ago. When you take a look at this, you clearly have a problem here. Mexico is behind all these prosecutions, and our government has given scalps, primarily of Border Patrol agents. But it doesn't just stop there, because we have received additional information that has gone on since this case has opened up. And this is the U.S. Attorney's letter regarding the fine to the Diaz family dated November 7, 2011 to Jesus Enrique Diaz Jr., but it was sent to his home, to his family in Del Rio, Texas. This is regarding $6,870 and penalties and costs, court number. Judgment date October 25, 2011. Dear Mr. Diaz Jr., on the date listed above, you were ordered to pay the court. The Financial Litigation Unit of the United States Attorney's Office is now in charge of collecting your criminal debt. With the following exceptions, the amount you owe is due now and will be delinquent after 30 days. Delinquency may result in certain penalties being added to the debt pursuant to 18 U.S. Code 3612. Your cashier's check or money order payable to the clerk should be mailed to the U.S. Clerk's Office. Please note that personal checks are not accepted. And then it gets into some terms such as you do not have assets with which to immediately pay the debt. You've made an agreement with the court or your probation officer, or you have entered into a satisfactory repayment agreement with this office, or you are presently incarcerated. If you are presently incarcerated, you may begin paying on your debt through the Inmate Financial Responsibility Program. Regardless of any partial payments you have or will make, please be aware that the United States retains the authority to collect the balance of the debt as provided by law. The United States has a lien against all non-exempt property you own, including your homestead, to secure payment of this debt. Your property cannot be sold without permission of the United States. This lien can be enforced in the same manner as a tax lien and will not be released until your debt is paid in full. If you have paid the debt in full, please disregard this notice and notify the United States Attorney's Office immediately by returning a copy of this letter with a copy of the receipt. Sincerely, Robert Pittman, United States Attorney. Getting past that information, because you could see this case was flawed. There are questions about how this complaint was even done in the first place. There were questions as to why this even rose to the level of a prosecution. And yet, you get a prosecution. You get countless acts of perjury that are committed by this drug smuggler who never had any credibility. He lied to investigators, he lied to the field agents, he lied at the station, he lied to the consul, he lied to the grand jury, he lied. Their star witness, who was deemed by the Office of Professional Responsibility, never had any credibility. That witness should never have been brought to trial, but what he should have been was prosecuted, just as the other drug smuggler should have been prosecuted. So we know why, we know how. But you also have the other witnesses who claimed that this bothered them so much that they reported this hours after the fact. So where does that leave us? Well, it leaves us with an innocent man sitting in prison. It leaves us with agents, including Gabriel Lerma, who clearly lied, who repeatedly lied, who was never charged with lying or perjury, who remains on the job today in a South Texas station. You also have others who were part of this, who were able to get away with this. You have a government that suborned perjury, that allowed this to happen. You have a judge that allowed this to happen, Alia Moses, who allowed this to happen in her courtroom, and then later deems our agent Diaz to be a danger to the community. No, I think we know who the real danger is to the community. But wait, there's more. Just when you think it can't get any worse, they served Agent Diaz paperwork terminating him from his employment as a U.S. Border Patrol agent during the month of October. After the sentencing was done, he received 24 months. Now, initially, it was supposed to be 10 years, mandatory minimum for the so-called civil rights charge, and an additional 5 years per count of lying to investigators. But Mr. Diaz, let's be clear about this, never lied. He told the same story, and that story never changed, unlike the other witnesses. Now, if that's not insult enough, then here's something that we have just learned that has taken place. The U.S. Attorney's Office for that same Western District of Texas, now under the leadership of Robert Pittman, who was nominated and confirmed by the Senate, nominated by Barack Obama for the position. John Murphy is no longer a U.S. attorney. He is now back in his role of first assistant. What they have done is gone back to the court and requested essentially a gag order so that documents that were part of discovery, part of the record that led to this BS prosecution and conviction against an innocent agent, Jesus Chito Diaz Jr., and requested an order of protection so that it cannot be used. We know why, because this government has something to hide and they continue to play these games where Mexico is concerned. This is outrageous. This requires action, and so far we've had some action. Washington, through members of Congress, led by Duncan Hunter, congressman from San Diego, California, letters have been sent to the Attorney General requesting an explanation for the fine and requesting that the fine be raised, requesting answers as to why this case developed, which have been ignored by them. And as we understand this, a letter has been sent from members of Congress to the White House to President Barack Obama, requesting some questions there as well. Now, you, the American people, need to get involved in this case because we have an innocent agent and his family is continuing to be persecuted by this government. And for what? Drug smugglers? Illegal alien drug smugglers or narco-terrorists from Mexico? This government allowed this persecution to happen and continues to support the will of the Mexican government to this day. This is wrong. It must be stopped. Please call your members of Congress. And for those of you who can, you'll notice I'm wearing a green ribbon. I ask that you join me in wearing the green ribbon while Chito is in prison, and until this matter is cleared up and his name is restored and he's back at home with his family, because that's what the green ribbon was for. We did this previously during the Ramos and Compián case. We've had to bring out this green ribbon, which by the way is the exact same one I wore during that era. We ask that you join us. Go to the websites freeagentdiaz.com to learn more, or advocatescouncil.us, which is the organization I lead. If you can, please help with a donation. And for those of you who can, also send Agent Diaz a letter, because these letters are greatly helping keep his spirits up and his family's spirits up. If you can donate, we would be most appreciative. If you can't and just send a letter, we would also be appreciative of that to you. On behalf of the Liberty News Network, I'm Andy Ramirez.